Hi, it's Debbie, your weight loss buddy here. I wanted to do a couple videos, book reviews. When I was researching surgery and in the early stages, I just tried to absorb as many books and reading online and things along that line as I could. And I actually just recently ordered a couple of new books from Barnes& and Nobles. They hadn't come in yet. So when they come in, I'll probably do a review on those too. I have some regular information books and then some cookbooks. So I may split this into actually two videos. This one I wanted to talk about some of the books that I read. Um, One of the first ones I read, The Successful Habits of Weight Loss Surgery Patients. I actually think this one is out of print, if I'm not mistaken. I think I got this through Amazon, though, and got it for just a few dollars. But I think it also was really one of the first books, I would say, that was written on the topic. It came out in 2003. There's no, or maybe you don't know, in the mid to late 1990s, there was a lot of weight loss surgery. That's kind of when the first big boom in bariatric surgery came about. But there's been quite a bit of change in the techniques that are used in the different kinds. And back in the 90s, a lot of them were open surgeries, where now they try to do more laparoscopic. I bring that up because just about all the books that I read were in the early 2000s, and they were written by people who had surgeries in the 90s. So a lot of times, and I'll point it out when some of this information I think is a little dated. There's a couple books that have been updated since then. But this book, one of the good things about it is, like I said, it came out kind of one of the first books. You might be able to find it at www.bariatricsupportcenter.com. I haven't tried that site, to tell you the truth, to see if it was still there. But it's one of those things that has a lot of practical tips. And one of the things it has in there is the famous cottage cheese test. And if you don't know what that is, it's like a way you could test to see how big your pouch is. You're supposed to get a container of cottage cheese, and then you eat as much as you can of it within, I think, a 15% period, and then you fill up the rest of the container with water, and it's supposed to tell you how many ounces your pouch can now hold, on that line. And then again, it has success stories, which is pretty common of a lot of these books, and again, from the 1990s. So that one's by Colleen Cook, and one that I would suggest. Of course, there's the good old Weight Loss Surgery for Dummies. You know, there's Dummies books out there for everything. This one's good because it gives, like the series, a lot of basic information, but over many different topics. It goes over a lot of, is this for you? How to prepare to have bariatric surgery, including an explanation of the different kinds of tests, psychological evaluations and things to think about, how you might go about paying for it. It has some tips or an idea of what to expect at the hospital, and then how to succeed at home. Like those books, they do a lot of these kind of hints and tips, and one of them is, I thought was an interesting section on grieving over the loss of food. And I think a lot of us that go through this hit this. I think I hit mine at the 2-month mark. I really, really was so sad that I could no longer go to Subway and eat a whole foot-long sub. And that was a grieving process I went through as well. So it kind of gives you tips of what to expect for that. Another book, Exodus from Obesity, by Paula, Peck. She actually is a nurse who went through the surgery herself in the 90s. And so one of the unique things about this book that I think is true is that she describes weight loss surgery as going through phases. Like the first 3 months called the honeymoon phase, because it's pretty much foolproof. You're going to lose weight. Then there's the golden stage that she says from months 3 to 6, where now you can actually eat food, but you have that wonderful self-stopping motion. And then, as we all know, or heard, after 6 months, return of hunger, and then it start really kind of working, and then the weight loss has really greatly slowed down. So I think those phases were accurate for me. And when I see videos, most people say that also. Shows also have a lot of sections on how to avoid sabotage of the diet, or I should say how to avoid failure, such as avoiding saboteurs and how to eat out in restaurants and things along that line. I got a good one was the Emotional First Aid Kit. And this was developed for people who've had bariatric surgery. And it's by Cynthia Alexander, who's a psychologist. This book actually uses a cognitive behavioral approach. And so if you know about those kinds of techniques, she's aptly applied them to eating. So there's a lot of things about how to change your thoughts about what food is, how to do some other behaviors when you're filled with stress instead of eating. It goes over things that may change, like relationship issues that you may encounter, and kind of gives you some coping skills. It also has a thing about how to prepare yourself psychologically for surgery, and she has some things like a pro and con list, a questionnaire. So this book was meant to be kind of an interactive book, if you will. So it's kind of a workbook also. So that was pretty neat too. This one I'm not going to talk too much about because, in all honesty, I found this to be the least helpful. The Weight Loss Surgery book, Everything You Need to Know About Gastric Bypass and Bariatric Surgery. It was written by a psychologist, I believe, as well as a doctor who was at one point the president of the Bariatric Society, so he knew quite a bit about it. The book came out in 2004, and there's a lot about the mechanics of surgery. They go over a lot of surgeries that really aren't used very much, I don't think, like the balloon. I don't personally know of anybody who's even had that done, or if they still do that. I think it's a European thing. But so it goes over a lot of surgeries that aren't really performed, and some of the more updated ones that you hear about aren't covered at all. So this one is a little more dated. It does, like I said, then also got a lot about the epidemic of obesity, why diets fail, a lot about biology. So it's good about, if you want to learn more about how biology is affecting your body and how dieting may not work for you. I would say this is more of a scholarly book rather than one that was written with practical tips in mind. Given that it's so difficult to load things up in YouTube that are too long, I'm going to stop now. I am going to mention, I forgot to tell you, notice I'm wearing I call this my weekend wig, and if you can see, it's got blonde underneath black hair, and I get more looks in this when I go out. Sometimes they're good. Tonight I went out to the grocery store. Some little kids were poking at their mother and looking at me, and they were saying, "Oh, she's a witch." My hair. But a lot of men seem to want to, get flirty. So I don't know. I guess this makes me look like some rockin' goth chick. But anyways, I'll be back with another review in just a moment.